Chabatuna, Chabatu Pandan Malakan, Chabam Dundayo, 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 Chabatu Pandan Malakan, Babiang Wedel, 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 Hagabai Dini, 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 Jinang Mini Wunda, Jinang Mini Panda, Yanunata, Jinang Mini Wunda, Jinang Mini Panda, Jinang Mini Wunda. Chabatuna, Chababu Pandan Malakan, Chabam Dundayo, 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 Chababu Pandan Malakan, Babiang Wedel, 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 Hagabai Dini, Hagabai Dini, Hagabai Dini, Hagabai Dini, Hagabai Dini, Hagabai Dini, Hagabai
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Billy Luke, coming live today to come and briefly update you about the peace agreement, the peace accord that was signed between the Nuba Mountain and the Northern Sudan government, as well as the signing of cessation of hostility between the Northern Sudan and the Nuba Mountain rebel groups. So I'm just here to update you about the current peace agreement, the peace accord that was actually reached between the Northern Sudan and the Nuba Mountain. So I'm just here to read out the protocol that was signed. Joint agreement. We, representative of the transitional government of the Republic of Sudan and Sudan People Liberation Movement, NOS, affirm the following principle. Number one, Sudan is a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural society. Full recognition and accommodation of this diversity must be affirmed. Number two, complete political and social equalities of all people in the Sudan must be guaranteed by law. Number three principle, a democratic state must be established in the Sudan. For Sudan to become a democratic country where the rights of all citizens are enshrined, the constitution should be based on the principle of separation of religion and state, in the absence of which the right to self-determination must be respected. Freedom of belief and worship and religious practice shall be granted in full to all Sudanese citizens. The state shall not establish an official religion. No citizen shall be discriminated against based on their religion. People of Nuba Mountain and Blue Nile, the two areas retain the status quo, which include self-protection until security arrangements are agreed upon by the parties to the conflict and until separation between religion and state is actualized. Number five, the parties hereby agree to maintain a cessation of hostilities throughout the peace process until the security arrangements are agreed upon. Number six, the principle of appropriate and fair sharing of power and wealth among the various people of the Sudan must be realized through the Constitution. Signed it at Addis Ababa this day of September 2020. Yes, this peace accord was actually signed yesterday, and this peace accord was actually signed between His Excellency Abdallah Hamdok, Prime Minister of the Republic of Sudan, and and signed by the Abdelaziz Adam Al-Hilu, Chairman and Commander-in-Chief of the Sudan People Liberation Movement, NAS. So these are the principles signed by the two parties, the Prime Minister of Northern Sudan and the Commander-in-Chief of the Sudan People Liberation Movement, NAS, the SPLM NAS. We all know these revolutionary movements under Abdelaziz of the Nuba Mountain, which is actually the combination of the Nuba Mountain and the Blue Nile. So this is very, very interesting peace accord that was signed between the Prime Minister of Sudan, Abdallah Hamdok, and Commander-in-Chief of the Sudan People Liberation Movement, NAS, Abdelaziz Al-Hilu of the Nuba Mountain, who is also the Chairman and Commander-in-Chief of the Sudan People Liberation Movement, NAS. And also Blue Nile is also under the same leadership of these revolutionary movements. So this is a very, very exciting news to us as South Sudanese, because we should be excited about this, because we do believe in the relative peace that is actually between the Nuba Mountain and the Blue Nile, as well as Darfur is also concerned, because we need a relative calm and tranquility between our international borders, between the Northern Sudan and the Southern Sudan. That way, we can actually be able to maintain normalcy, so that we can actually be able to restore diplomatic relation, and so that we can also be able to restore relative peace and stability between our international borders. That way, our citizens will be able to have a free movement between the two countries, the two sisterly countries, the Northern Sudan and the South Sudan. We would also want to see normalcy and restoration of the commercial trade between the two countries as well, the Northern Sudan and the South Sudan. So this is why we have to be supportive of any peace agreement that is reached between the rebel of the North and the Northern Sudan government. So this is actually an exciting news. Where I come from the border area with the Northern Sudan. So I personally do feel excited about it because this guarantee restoration of normalcy, diplomatic relation, stability, peace, and tranquility between the two sisterly countries, so that our civil population will be able to have a free movement between the two countries. That means we will be able to have access to services in the northern part of Sudan. And if Northerners would want to come to South Sudan, they will be free to come to South Sudan as well. So there is going to be a restoration of the trade between the two countries. So that means there is going to be a prosperity, economic prosperity, and restoration of the trade between the two countries, which is actually going to benefit us in terms of economic growth and making our people to be accessible to services and commodities that they need between the two countries. Particularly, South Sudanese will be able to have access to market in the northern part of Sudan. That way, the northern part of our country, which actually include the Ruwing and the northern Upper Nile and area of Abyei, part of Unity State, as well as northern part of Barakazal region, will also be able to have access to free trade between the two countries, because these are the strategic states that have international borders with the Northern Sudan. So this is actually an exciting news, and we have to be supportive of this principle first, between the Prime Minister of Sudan and the rebel groups of the Northern Sudan. So this is very, very exciting news, and we should be celebratory and triumphant of this news. So I think all of us should be able to support it. We actually need to see relative peace and stability being restored. That way, our people will be able to have access to commercial trade. You know, our people will be able to have accessible health care to the northern part of Sudan whenever they are in need of treatment. Given the poor health, health condition in South Sudan, so we have to allow our people to have a free movement between the two countries. You know, there is going to be a normalization of the free movement. That way, citizens can go to Northern Sudan, maybe to look for commercial commodities for their trade. They can also go to South Sudan, Northern Sudan, so that they can actually be able to access a healthcare system in the northern part of the country when they are seeking medical treatment. So this is actually an exciting news, and we should be supportive of this. Now, you should also be able to understand that, you know, part of Northern Sudan is actually hosting a vast majority of the refugees that were actually displaced from the Northern Sudan. And this is the opportunities for this civil population to be able to return back to their country so that they can be able to normalize the activities in their localities in the northern part of the country. So peace is good. It's just like when we were able to sign peace agreement in Kenya, and we were able to return back to our country, and people were able to resume their normal activities in their own country. So this is what we have to be supportive. So I have to repeat. The basic principle that were found in this peace accord and cessation of hostility are something to do what they are actually demanding as a rebel groups in the northern Sudan is the fact that they want to see northern Sudan become be recognized as a multiracial country. That means it's a country that is actually composed of various racial various racial groups that come from different parts of the country or around the world. For instance, we have an African in Sudan, and we have those people who claim themselves to be coming from the Arab world. So that's what it means to be a multiracial country. So the rebel group want to see Northern Sudan become a multiracial country. That means it has to compose of so many different races from different different backgrounds. So they want to see Sudan become a multi-ethnic country. That means Sudan have to be recognized as a country that composed of so many ethnic groups, so many ethnicities. That's what it's supposed to be, which is not under the current Northern Sudan government. You know, Sudan used to be considered as an Arab country, as an Islamic country, which was not actually the case. And that's the reason why South Sudan actually succeed from the main Sudan as a result of this discriminatory policy or principle as per the constitution of the old Sudan. So this is exactly what the rebels are demanding. They want to see Northern Sudan as a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious. It has to compose of so many religious beliefs. So it should not be confined to one particular religion, which is actually the case now in Northern Sudan. Sudan is actually considered as an Islamic country, which is not actually the case. In Sudan, as we speak, in Northern Sudan, as we speak, we have Christianity, we have Islam, and we have African religion. Maybe other religion could be there, so they need to be recognized as the part of the system. So this is what we basically fought for during the revolutionary Sudan Revolutionary War, which was actually spearheaded by the Sudan People Liberation Movement under late Dr. John Garang Mabio, of which those of Abdelaziz Adams, including former Isukuo, joined the Sudan People Liberation Movement as a result of this call to have a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural society. So they also want to see Sudan as a multicultural society. That means Sudan has to be considered as a country that is actually composed of various cultural background, various cultural society. So they want this to be recognized in the constitution of the Northern Sudan. So that's the number one demand that want to be seen as implemented in the upcoming new Sudan. That is exactly the new Sudan that we were actually envisioning when we were in the revolutionary SPLA movement in those days. The number two principle that they are demanding to be implemented as per the agreement is the complete political and social equalities of all people in the Sudan must be guaranteed by law. That means they want to see the recognition of political and social equalities. That means they want to see everybody being treated as equally under the same constitution and under the same national law that is going to be legislated in the new Sudan constitution or law, statutory law. So that's the number two demand that they want to see being implemented in order to recognize the establishment of the new Sudan, as was actually envisioned in our revolutionary era. Number three is a democratic state must be established in the Sudan. They want to see the establishment of the democratic new Sudan. So for Sudan to become a democratic country where the right of all citizens are enshrined, the constitution should be based on the principle of separation of religion and state. This is exactly what was actually being envisioned in the revolutionary SPLA. So we were actually envisioning or aspiring to see New Sudan, which actually considered and recognized the establishment of the separation of the state and the religion. That means Sudan must be considered as a secular nation, not as an Islamic nation or to be seen as a theocratic state. That means it shouldn't be seen as a religious state. It has to be considered a secular Sudan. That means it shouldn't be treated as a religious country in that case. So it shouldn't be enshrined in the constitution of the new Sudan as a theocratic state. That means religious state. You know, let Sudan be considered a secular state. That means it has to comprise of different religious beliefs. Let people worship however they want to worship. That is the kind of democracy they want to see. In the absence of which the right to self-determination must be respected as well. You know, these people from the Nuba Mountains and the Blue Nile, they want to see a guarantee of constitutional right to call for their own self-determination. Like they have to be given the opportunity. If the civil population would want to offer self-determination, that means if they would want to offer succession from the main Sudan, they should be allowed to do so. If vast majority of the people are actually going to vote for self-determination or succession, like was in the case of South Sudan. So they want to see that right being exercised in Sudan. So freedom of belief and worship and the religious practice shall be granted in full to all Sudanese citizens. The state shall not establish an official religion. That means Sudan should not be recognized as Islamic state anymore, like in the case right now. So they want to see the recognition of various religious background. However, one would want to worship, you know, has to be recognized by the constitution of the new Sudan. So that is something that they want to see being considered. No citizen shall be discriminated against based on their religion. Yes, Number 4, the people of Nuba Mountain and the Blue Nile, the two areas, retain the status quo, which includes self-protection until security arrangements are agreed upon by the parties to the conflict and until separation between religion and state is actualized. Yes, the Nuba Mountain and the Blue Nile want to see the actualization. That means the recognition, the actualization. That means the separation of the powers and religion. The separation of the religion and the state need to be guaranteed, and they also want to see that their security is actually being guaranteed. Security arrangement must be guaranteed. They want to remain in the status quo until when they see the government of Sudan practically implementing the actualization of the separation of religion and the state. So, and they also they want to ensure that they have their own self-protection in case they may come under attack by the Sudan Army Force. They deserve to protect themselves. That's why they don't want to be a part of the current peace agreement, which was signed last week between the Northern Sudan government and the Darfur, because Darfurian, majority of them actually inclined toward the Islamic religion. So that's why it might have been very easy for them to sign a peace agreement between the Northern Sudan and the rebel. But however, in the case of the Blue Nile and the Nuba Mountain, most of them have been Christianized recently. That means majority could have actually leaned toward or inclined toward the Christianity. And they want to see this reform being done, being implemented with the practicality in order for them to actually consider this as a concrete peace agreement that must be recognized by their people. Otherwise, failure to do that may not actually allow them to be part of the Sudan full peace agreement. The number 5, the parties hereby agree to maintain cessation of hostility throughout the peace process until the security arrangements are agreed upon. So that means Nuba Mountain and Blue Nile, they guarantee that they will remain in cessation of hostility. That means they will stop fighting and they will not be hostile and they will not be aggressive toward the Northern Sudan Army Force until security arrangement is being done and guaranteed. The principle of appropriate and fair sharing of power and wealth among the various people of the Sudan must be realized through the Constitution. They want to see the realization of the power sharing and the resources. So they want to see this practically being done. So, ladies and gentlemen, this actually brings me to the end of this analysis of the peace accord, the peace principle that were actually signed between the Prime Minister of Northern Sudan, Prime Minister of the Republic of the Sudan, His Excellency Abdallah Hamdok. Abdallah Hamdok is the Prime Minister of the Republic of Sudan. And then the co-signer was Abdulaziz Adam Al-Hilu, Chairman and Commander-in-Chief of the Sudan People Liberation Movement, NOS. So this is actually very, very important peace principle, and cessation of hostility is something that is actually exciting to us, because we South Sudanese, we want to see the normalization, the restoration of the peace, stability, tranquility between the North Sudan, the Republic of Sudan, and the rebel groups. So this is actually very important to us, particularly the border communities, because we want to see our local people, our local traders, to be able to have access to the commercial commodities and services in the northern part of the country. So that means all the corridors in the northern part of South Sudan is actually going to be accessible to northern Sudan, and that way it will actually enable the smooth flow of the commercial trade between the northern state in southern Sudan to be able to have access to cheap commodities in the north of Sudan. They will also be able to have access to healthcare services in the north, whereby our people cannot even have quick access to the southern part of Sudan, where a lot of commercial commodities and modern services are actually coming from various part of the country, such as the Uganda, the Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, CAR, which is actually Central African Republic, and also from Ethiopia, all converging in Juba. So that's where all the commercial commodities and services are actually being concentrated. However, in the northern part of South Sudan, this civil population are not able to have access to cheap commodities and services. So it makes it relatively very expensive for the northern part of Sudan to receive commercial service and commodities due to higher price when it comes to logistical problem in accessing part of the northern part. So if the northern part of if the international borders are actually being open following the signing of this peace agreement, that means our people will be able to have access to northern Sudan, given the fact that the security situation is going to improve and the border movement is going to normalize and people will be able to move freely. And that way, normalcy will be restored. And this is why we are actually excited to see the coming together of the northern Sudan rebel groups and the government of the Republic of Sudan signing those peace accords and principle and cessation of hostility. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This was just a brief analysis of the Republic of Sudan peace agreement with the rebel of the Sudan. So thank you very much for being here with me. I think I was not going to call anybody, but I have to end the show. And thank you very much for your contribution or for your for joining me in this studio and being here. Thank you.